What's going on, everybody? It's David Pietek and Dwayne. I got a video for that. Kimball,
Oh yeah,
happy Wednesday, y'all.
yeah. Likewise, the weather here in Florida has been cold, man. I got sick.
Mm-hmm.
First time I think I've been in Florida almost 20 years, and this is the second time I had the flu.
Yeah. Well, what's the weather by you guys?
73 degrees right now.
Okay. Well, let's not talk about the weather. Let's
Yeah,
try to talk about some positive things for everybody, okay?
for everybody. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you guys don't know our format, we will be answering questions around the VA home loan and VA disability. We're kind of mixing up the times a little bit to kind of give you a lunch special. So you have something to do. If you don't like your coworkers, this is a great opportunity to get away from that.
Yeah,
You
there
can
you
always
go. There
watch
you
it
go.
later or drop comments down below. We'll answer the questions. But always happy to help you guys and everyone actually just understand how these benefits work, because that's how Dwayne and I got together. Was like I needed some help with doing some VA stuff, and I came across Dwayne's channel, LinkedIn, and here we are, a couple years
Yep.
later, doing these videos, educating everybody out there. So, Dwayne, thank you again for doing these with me. Uh,
No,
Appreciate
no
it.
problem. Nope. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's always fun, especially when you're giving some good information out that people can use. And this information that we're talking about, people can, it's like it's what do they call it? The Rockefeller, the generational wealth,
Yep.
because you can, obviously get some benefits, get a home and, leave that to your kids and so forth. And, people say, hey, this is the house I grew up in or whatever,
Yep.
So just generational knowledge.
Definitely. And another thing that I would also point out, a funny thing is I was looking at stuff on YouTube, and I came across this video from, I think it might have been people with talking like like Dick Van Dyke turned 100 years old. I don't know if you've seen it,
Oh,
but he
no,
just
no.
kind of talks about his life. And, if you don't know who that is, he was like in Mary Poppins. He was like a very big actor
Yeah.
back in the day. But he served in the Air Force. And, he was talking about him growing up, not having a lot of money, being in shows, just trying to make it. But when he
Mhm.
talks about the VA home loan, he like pauses and takes like a big gulp, because he was like, if it wasn't for the GI Bill, because that's what they called it back then, he's like, we wouldn't have owned the home. And so that carries on to today, because a lot of veterans, just in general, either dismiss the VA loan still, and I don't know how. And that's like younger folks, and we definitely see that with older folks where they're like, well, I don't need the VA loan. Well, there's ways that you can use it to either buy another property, live there for a while, potentially rent it out again, or like you mentioned, right, generational wealth is a big thing right now, and it should always be. But I think with the internet and everything else that's available to us, we're just more aware of the different options that exist, right? Even in today's housing market. And let me know what you guys think. Like, is it a good time to buy or not? Because there's definitely a lot of, not even say confusion, but a lot of resistance to buying. There's still people not claiming their VA disability. They keep thinking it's going to get better somehow.
Yeah.
Which leads us into, like, let's just talk about a couple of things that are happening. I'll talk about, Dwayne, you want to touch on a couple of things that are new with VA benefits. I'll give you guys some updates on what's going on with like VA home loans, housing, so you have a good idea, and then we'll answer questions.
Yeah.
And yeah, Dwayne, take it away.
Uh,
What's
so
new?
I'm not going to go too far in depth on this topic because I'm going to be talking about it tonight when I go live.
Uh,
Is there was a hearing that came out in the DBQs, CNP exams, veterans going, not going, and I did a video on someone that left a comment on my channel, not on my channel, somebody else's channel, saying, "Oh, you telling veterans not to go to the CNP exam." I never tell veterans that. I tell veterans why I refuse going to CNP exams. Um, I had four. Two of them were great. Two of them were horrible. And the two that were horrible, the examiners, they flat out lied.
yep.
And I was like, and now you have to fight that lie. So me at the time, being a VA rater, following the regulations, And I'm like, no, I'm not going. I'm not going to give you another opportunity to lie. And then back then, it was still paper claim, Dave. So now when people say, oh, it took me 8 months to get, what? That's quick. If you'd have told me back then, from start to finish 8 months, I'd have been like, all right, cool. I could deal with that. But now you have to fight this lie that's documented, and that's all Raiders have to go off of, you know.
Wow.
Um, and so now it's this hearing, that happened on February 3rd. And, I took some notes, and one of the indicators they're saying about fraud when veterans refuse to appear for a CNP exam. And I want to talk about that for a minute because what's not being talked about, and again, I'm going to talk about this tonight, so I don't want to go too far in depth, is no one's talking about why the VA created the DBQs in the first place. So why create something and then say, hey, we created this to help with the backlog, but we're not going to use it? So was that just a check mark for Congress? It's a waste of time and resources, and it gets the veterans' hopes up. Now, is there fraud in this? Yes. I'm not going to be naive and say that there isn't, but I'm not going to say just because someone refuses their exam that could even be a potential. It could be a potential, but I'm not going to say it is a potential because I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not going. I had my own reason, and still today, I would do the same thing, and I would fight it. But every veterans, they're gonna have to make that own decision. They're gonna have to make that decision on how, just like home loans. If somebody's offering this percentage and somebody's offering another percentage, but you love their commercials, if you want to have a higher interest rate, then hey, more power to you. You are not gonna get an argument from me. You're not at all.
That's funny.
Yeah. I don't know who would do that. I love those commercials, so I'm gonna go ahead and pay extra.
A lot of people.
Extra percentage. I won't name the company that gets you triggered, but
yeah, a lot of people still do it. But you know what? That's good. I guess when you have really good marketing, that's how it works.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's good. I know that on the VA side, definitely has been some positive updates, I would say. I know I touched on this last month, but just to reiterate, VA home loan limits, when you have multiple VA home loans, that threshold has gone up. So that's positive. I know we've talked about the Sherry Briley, Eric Edmondson Veterans Act of 2025, where they proposed to increase VA funding fees across the board, plus veterans that are service connected using the V loan for using the V loan a second time and on would be charged a VA funding fee if they had a 70% or less VA disability rating. So they did make a slight update to this. They're not charging the additional VA funding fee right now for purchase transactions. They're only charging one on interest rate reduction refinance loans and assumables. So they're 3xing it, going from 0.5% to 1.5%. So that's positive. So at least they're trying to keep that down. And overall market, you have mixed things when you come to the market. On one hand, you look at an article like the end is coming, everything's falling apart, and on the other hand, Dwayne, it's everything is great, affordability is at its highest in 4 years, which is the current quote. And you think about what does that actually mean, right? Because it's true in the sense that rates are at a time where affordability is its highest. 4.3 million people qualify to refinance right now. But you have to think about where we were before, 4, 5, 6 years ago, and where we are today, where home values have gone up a significant amount, right? And you think about affordability when rates, technically before the COVID happened, we're right around 4.5. So why can't we kind of go back to that time, right? Yeah. I know there's been talks about trying to get folks to get the rates down even lower, but really without government intervention, which is quantitative easing, I just don't see that happening. So, and I don't know if that's a smart move to make because, the reality of the situation is we have the largest transfer of wealth ever happening from baby baby boomers to their kids, so people have money. Um, and yeah, so it's kind of the challenge
Yeah.
right now.
Hey, Dave, real quick. Someone's
Yeah,
saying we're breaking up. Nathaniel, who is breaking up? Because I can hear Dave perfect. I don't hear any static. So just give us if we're having any comms issues, please let us know if it's myself or David. But I can hear
yeah.
you just fine, David.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let me know for sure, and then we'll try to figure it out on that. But yeah, I mean, that's why a lot of times, Dwayne, I'm always saying is that it's you can't time the market, right?
Yep.
And I know someone dropped a comment in here that for not doing something, right? Um, but you kind of got to think about where you're at financially now. Can you control your budget? Can't because that's going to be the biggest thing. Most people can afford it, um, but it's just a matter of like how you spend, right? And right now,
Mhm.
just kind of stepping back this year from like trying to do stuff on Amazon all the time or trying to always purchase. You're like, dang, like how much money do you actually spend when anything that we want, we could just click a button and it comes right to our house, right?
Wow,
Um,
crazy.
yeah, it is crazy. Because sometimes I look at stuff and be like, why are you ordering $60 worth of McDonald's a week? Like, what's going on here? And it's just the cost of everything has gone up
Yeah.
just across the board.
And I've been sick these last few days. Last time I went out was I think Friday morning. Took my son to the bus stop, and then I think Thursday, I went out once, and and then I went out today. I had to go to the mailbox, but was crazy. We have a grocery store here, which is buy one get one free, and I'm always, they'll have like a little deal, spend $25, get five off. You could clip some electronic coupons. You set up an account when you get there, and you check out at the keypad. When you check out, you put your phone number in, it'll deduct all, your savings. Then I went in there and I wanted some particular type of water. Then they had like $1 off, but it was buy one, get one free. So I was just saving. But what I thought about, and I was like, man, I didn't go out and get anything to eat. I had everything right here in the house. I didn't spend anything, but like you said, people are door dashing every day,
That's
right?
crazy.
And I was
That's
like,
crazy expensive.
"Oh, my son do it," and I'm like, "Dude,
Not to
we
bring
we
it
got
personal.
yeah, we got a refrigerator in the kitchen, freezer out in the garage, and a grill out back with a Blackstone."
Sounds
And
good.
you can be like, "Hey, Dad, when you get off work, can we just go out back and flip some burgers or something?" And because when you eat that DoorDash, now if you want something else to eat, what are you gonna do? DoorDash again? Or you gonna get up and cook some where you can cook some, and then you're like, all right, I can cook 4 or 5 burgers, and I get hungry later, I can eat a burger for dinner.
Yeah.
That's just the way my mindset is.
Yep. And that's the way it
Those
should be. Especially with, I mean, I'm telling you, just looking at prices right now across the board. I think they're just trying to get us for every penny they can get right now. And this is why also I think this definitely ties into VA disability pieces because I think a lot, I still talk to people today, Dwayne, that are like, well, yeah, I had some things happen in service and I don't know what to do. Right. And I think there's enough resources, like you're a good resource of that stuff. Even like buddies of
Mhm.
mine, I'm like, come on, man, like get it together and file because VA disability, if you've earned it, right, you have something happen in service, it changes your life drastically, both in the sense of your benefits that you have, right, medical benefits,
Yeah,
um, property tax benefits, uh, indemnity compensation benefits, if
yeah.
that's going to apply. Those are huge things that you could also leave on to your spouse. So,
Yeah, yeah, they in the hearing, which I'm gonna be talking about tonight, they were talking about DIC and as it pertains to spouses remarrying, the age, and I just think, man, they're just nitpicking at this point. Um, what are ways? Because when you look at And at the end of the day, people got to realize freedom isn't free, right?
Like, yeah,
It's
it's
just
not.
it's just not. You know, um, someone had to provide that. You know, and those are veterans. And I can remember being in the military. You're going out on bit whack, you're jumping, and you know spraying yanking. You're not really thinking about it. You know, and now it hurts. So that's the price, right? And so the bill is due, and it's time to pay that uh pay that bill. And like you stated, this is the stuff that you could pass on to your families. And I think federal government is just nitpicking at some of this stuff. Like, no, we shouldn't be paying them. What do you mean? Okay, well, don't have anybody in the armed forces, then what?
Right. No, I'm with you.
You know?
And it's just baby steps to get there. It's same thing with like home ownership. It's normally you don't just wake up and say today that's it. I'm buying a house, or hey, I'm just gonna go ahead and do my disability. But if you do think that, one, connect with me. You can drop it in the description. You can schedule a call. But the other part is that you can also file your intent to file, and then you have a year to file
Yeah.
your disability. And at least, Dwayne, is that so? It's still, I think a lot of people are confused. Is like, if you file your intent to file, do you lock in those DBQs at that time? Because, like,
It's just the effective date. That's it.
okay,
But you don't have to submit any evidence at that time. And the way what they have is they got the intent to file date, then you have data claim.
uh,
And I've done videos on this. And the data claim is basically you don't have an intent to file and you just submit, for example, you submit that 526EZ and you get service connected. Then behind the scenes, the employees say, "Oh, we granted from the date of claim." So that I know, okay, that's from when we received the 526EZ, or they'll say, "Oh, I did the ITF date." So which means, okay, well, the vet did the intent to file, submitted the prescribed claim form. In this example, the 526EZ within the 365 days, which you're talking about. And so we went to the ITF date. Then you have date entitlement arose. Okay, so I do have a video where I'm breaking this stuff down, these effective dates, and it's very important that veterans know this because when you get service connected, they have to explain which effective date they use. And guess what? Sometimes VA employees get it wrong, but veterans they don't get past that. Hey, I got that 25K back pay, not knowing that man, it could be another 10 grand on the table if that effective date is not correct.
yeah. But does that also add to like a time limit that you have to have a V disability not to get re-rated, or like grandfathered in or something like that? Like, so,
Uh,
like, don't you need like a certain amount of time if you're like at a certain percentage or 100% for your spouse to get indemnity compensation?
yeah, I want to. Oh, you're gonna make me go look this up. I, you
Well, I was
know,
just thinking about that because,
uh,
like, sometimes people, even though they're 100%, will go back and get re-rated because let's say it's a heart condition now, right?
right,
Where they want to add that because of that, but like, where do those times reset? Like,
right,
oh, glasses
and
coming on. All right.
yeah, and I do have a video on that where I'm explaining you're at this percentage. And I can't even think of the name of that video, but you had a certain percentage. 10 years later, you come in for an increase, and you get that increase. Now that clock starts over because you got a new percentage and a new effective date, right? So it starts over. But while we're talking, I'll look it up. But the DIC overview should be able to pull up pretty quick. I want to say it is 10 years. Is a monthly pay surviving spouse child on or after or da 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 da. Dave, I am surgical with it. To a surviving, if I can share my screen, that'll probably be if I can. Let's see if you
You
don't
should be able
mind.
to.
All right.
Then I'll throw it up. Okay, yeah, I'm adding it to the stage.
Okay, here we go. So this is the M21-1, and this is the definition of DIC. Okay, what we were talking about to a surviving spouse, child, or parent because of a service-connected death that occurred. So that's what you were saying. The veteran passes away from a service-connected condition to a surviving spouse or child because the veteran had been rated as totally disabled, 100%, due to an SC stands for service connected disability prior to their death, typically for at least 10 years. And there's a 38 USC code, or to a surviving spouse or child because of death due to Department of Veterans Affairs medical treatment. This is another path for service connection is 1151 claims. I do have a video on that. I rated several of those. I didn't like those, but you can come to the M21-1 and it can provide a lot of information. So I've had clients that were 100% permanent total, and they had a condition that they were not service connected for, that they knew they were going to pass away from, right? And they eventually got service connected for it just for that reason. So their spouse wouldn't have any issue with DIC.
That's awesome. Yeah, and still, there's a lot of spouses that don't realize they can get DIC, which we've come across and helped them actually get with it. So,
Yeah.
that's
And
awesome.
even they have to understand the requirements or criteria if you get remarried, okay, and the age and stuff like that. So it's like IU. You got people out here saying, oh, you're 75, 80 years old, you're 90%, just apply for IU. Understand what IU is, because you could get reduced. I've seen veterans come
Yeah.
in for IU, get reduced, IU denied, and they lose anywhere up to I think I've seen veterans lose up to $2,000 a month. And these are older veterans, and they're on fixed incomes, and they're counting on this VA compensation. They may have SSI or SSD or whatever, and then they got this compensation, but they still have bills. And now you talking about taking a $1,500, $2,000 a month hit, depending on what the VA is reducing. So you have to understand these things. And I think we as veterans, we're the veteran, we have to be educating our spouse.
Yeah.
you
Make a
know,
little booklet. That's what you should. You know what, Dwayne? You should probably put together a booklet for spouses and
I
have
mean,
that as a for
a
sale.
checklist. Yeah, I've been
That's
saying,
like with
I give it,
everything in there.
yeah, I give it away for free, man. I'll make an electronic version and just come up with a quick checklist. But even, one of my sponsors of the channel, he has he calls it Lives and Wishes. And what did he do? He gave it to veterans with a coupon code, 50% off. I want to say it's like 250. That's it, and you could upload documents there, and you can give access to anyone, right? And so your trust, your will, your term policy, your IUL, whole life, whatever it is, DD 214, when you pass away, whoever you gave access to, they can go and they can download all these documents and they can have them. It's in one place, because how many people, even though if you have your claims folder with your DD 214 on it, well, I got electronic version, I got a paper copy, and I use this particular portal. So, if I pass away, my wife can't say, I can't find any documents. I mean, that means you're not looking, right?
Yeah.
Because they're grieving. And I come across so many spouses, I don't know what they were service connected for, but somebody said you can get me. No, we call that person back and tell
Ah.
them they're wrong, because I can't get you anything. I can't even explain to you if you qualify, because you don't even know if your husband or wife was even service connected.
So how do you actually find out?
I don't. They
Well,
have to.
how do they find out?
They can call The call center. Now, the call center is not going to give them any information unless there's a third party consent form. But what they can do is say, "Hey, um, my spouse has passed away. I want to apply for DIC, but I don't know if they were service connected for anything. How, what can I submit a third party consent form?" And they should give them some information. But these are conversations that we as veterans have to be having with our family while we're still alive, because then that's just going to prolong. And I've talked to some spouses that were married to Vietnam vets on the verge of eviction, David.
I listen. We talk to people all too that actually have homes, but because of servicers making mistakes, they're losing their homes. Like,
Right.
or the county making the tax exemption adjustment that they do have to pay because like their paperwork got lost, or servicer is like, no, you have to pay taxes. And like
Yeah.
we've seen the wildest things where we're like, how? Like this is also why you just have to be prepared both budget and
Hmm.
reserves. Like I can't stress that enough. Um, Especially if you're on fixed income, like you have to figure out a way to save money. Just you got
Yeah.
like there's just you gotta figure it out
Yeah.
because I've just seen too many situations where things turn south pretty fast, just like
Mhm.
the position you talked about. So
Yeah.
make sure you guys drop some questions. I know we're gonna answer them here shortly. But definitely
But
please.
I have
Yeah,
people laughing at me because I never own a pair of Jordans.
that's good.
Never.
They're too
Yeah.
expensive.
eh, Yeah. And I'm like, could I buy a pair? Yeah. But now that I'm older, you think about needs
Yeah.
versus wants, liabilities versus assets. I'm my mindset now is on, and we've talked about this before, is on like
Yeah.
IULs now. How do I become a home bank? How do I create more generational wealth? And when you change that mindset, then you're not out here just buying a bunch of liabilities or buying a bunch of wants opposed to needs. So if, hey, you can't go on that vacation with your buddies because money's tight, or you want to buy this home, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 2 car garage with a little pool and a little small lot or whatever. Hey, you can't do it.
You
Just
know,
don't do it.
I see people rather have a nice car than a house.
It's crazy.
It's crazy where I'm like they literally make the decision.
Hmm.
And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. I mean, hey, look, home ownership isn't for everybody. I'll just say that, right? It's not like 100% of people in America own homes. They don't,
Right.
right? It's split. And home ownership normally comes with a lot of responsibility, maintenance. And
Hmm.
you see in areas where people don't maintain their homes, the values are lower because they don't maintain them, right? You have to keep
Hmm.
reinvesting in your home.
Yep.
But this the same thing when you rent. And that's what people don't understand is that a landlord charges you a premium to rent their home. They build into that home all the work that needs to be done, right? So all the maintenance that's required on the property. So you just don't see it because it's not coming out of your pocket. You're just paying
Right.
someone else blindly, and then you're spending a ton of money online.
Well, not only that, but they're also putting in the profit that they want to
Right.
make.
I'd say right. I thought they're
It's-
making money. Right.
right.
So and
And
and I
then
yeah,
they're putting the nest egg just in case something goes wrong.
right.
So all that, like you said, and they're not people that are paying it, they're not seeing it because their mindset is, oh, I make this much. If I work a little
Yep.
bit of overtime, then I can do some DoorDash and whatever. It's the mindset. Got to change that mindset.
No, 100%. Like, yeah, it's 100% mindset and getting yourself in a successful position. Yeah, definitely, guys. Make sure you drop questions. We're gonna be here for a little bit longer,
Yep.
answering them all. So, I know Grace. Thanks for joining us. I know she's driving. She's gonna watch a little
Yeah.
bit later. She's been on all our shows, so thank you so much
Mhm.
for being on. Carl, better than Iraq. I've been getting a lot of those kind of comments.
Okay. All right.
Gonna be funny. 3 up, checking in. Thanks for joining us.
Mhm.
Robert Fox, I need help with getting a lower interest rate. How? I like that question. It is very like I think everyone right now wants to get lower interest rates.
Yes.
This is the challenge. I'll tell you guys right now. We've had a lot of people reach out with these interest rate reduction refinance loans. December was one of the largest VA home loan transaction months. Like it was like 60,000 VA home loans. Way more than half was interest rate reduction refinance loans. And Dwayne, I look at these, and we talk to people that want to do cash out refinance. They want to do an interest rate reduction refinance loan, and we always give the honest truth, right? We look at it and go, because people will call me up like, this isn't worth it, don't do it. Or like, hey, this is worth it, but this is how we want to structure it so you
Yes.
can reduce closing costs. Um, and most of the time, I mean, they'll be like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I'm not going to do it. Or yes, I'm going to do it because it makes sense. You really got to look at the numbers to see where you can save. But again, with time over time, we look at these metrics from the VA companies that they use, and we know how much they charge in origination fees and discount points and other fees. And again, extremely mind blowing. Not looking at the details to see where markets are really like what are you really paying for this? We had one gentleman that came to us 25,000 in points. I
Whoa.
looked at that and I almost passed out. And then we're like, "Oh, we can give you the same rate, no fees, no discount. No, we don't have to charge that." And he's
Oh,
like,
okay.
"What?" So we were like, it was extremely positive. And then the other lender just wouldn't want to let them go. They're like, "Why would you leave us?" Like, and we're just thinking to yourself, like, you think like, what is going on out there that veterans just get taken advantage of like on a daily basis, right? If you want to see where rates are right now, and a good indicator, or at least like a decent one, is mortgagenewsdaily.com. You can see where rates are now. Those rates don't necessarily disclose if they're with discount points. But and they're also, I know that those rates they disclose is typically like higher credit score folks. Okay, so you have to be in a higher credit score when you're looking at that. Typically, if you have a VA loan, I'm sure you guys gotten a million mailers right now. I still get phone calls every single day. They're all, and I'm in the business, so they're full of it. Because then you go through the details, and they're like, oh, they avoid ask, the like how much discount points, origination fees, like do you have your own title company? And then they're like, oh well, yeah, that's gonna cost 3 points, so 15,000 plus closing fees. And I'm like, why would you even do this? So I mess with them a little bit since I know it. They don't know what I do, but I'm just like, this is crazy. And most of the time, Dwayne, what I've noticed, and I just had some time to reflect lately, is like when we talk to people, they get crazy pressured into doing things. And I've noticed that because our approach is different. We're like, here it is, do what you want, let us know, right? Because we're, very kind of hands off because uh there's no point in being trying to get someone to do something when it should be your own free will, especially with homes, right? VA disability, yeah, you should definitely file that. But when it comes to
Right.
housing, it's like you gotta just take a step back and make sure you're doing the right thing for that. Especially with those interest rate reduction refinance loans, you guys can definitely hit me up. I could look through it and we'll tell you the truth. Like, yeah, makes sense or it doesn't. Like Florida's a
Mhm.
good state to give you an example of um, understanding closing costs. You have to pay transfer taxes every time you refinance in Florida. It's the worst.
Mhm.
Best state, it's like one of the better states for like veterans without for disability, but it definitely has its downsides to refinancing. So this one's for you. It's a two-part question. So just an unnecessary
Uh,
CMP exam.
mhm.
Yeah.
I know. Okay. See if it's that I had a necessary appointment. Told me. You know, I was talking to my monthly veterans group. Did a video actually about it, and and then I did one on YouTube about misinformation.
Mhm.
And as it pertains to primary care physicians at the VA, any other individuals working under VHA, even third party CNP examiners said, oh, you should claim this, you should claim that. Well, right there in that exam, they could do a huge favor and give you a diagnosis and put some information on paper that will help you out later. So when you do file that claim. But here's the thing, raters don't do CNP exams. CNP examiners don't do ratings. They're totally separate, two different functions, right? So these examiners do not understand the process. I know a lot of them think that they do, but when it comes to, when I say process, the regulations, the requirements that uh, VSRs, RVSRs, the adjudicators have to adhere to when they are adjudicating a claim. So for some examiner to say, you had some surgery, so it's not an issue or whatever, they just don't want to put the work and time in to do exactly what they were trained to do, and that is to examine you. You got a diagnosis. If so, is it related to service? Yes or no? If it's not, then they have to explain why. If it is, they go ahead and do the exam, complete whatever information they have to do, and then send it back over to the region office.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, yeah, these exams, some of these exams are crazy. I think this Carl was talking about. So one of the things I talked about was, is it a good time to buy? He says, depends on your income, if it's a good time to buy or not. And I will add my 2 cents to that. Dwayne, there's folks that we help buy a multifamily or a home just on 100% VA disability. And they can buy, we've seen folks buy up to $1 million multifamily properties just on the $4,300 a month in disability because they saved really well. They have a lot of money saved. And then they're able to buy an asset that basically pays the entire mortgage. They don't have a mortgage payment, right? Unless they didn't rent the property, but they have reserves to set aside to help facilitate that. Your financial situation is really what dictates, I would say, from my opinion. Okay. And the reason I say that is because your income doesn't necessarily mean that you can buy or not, because there's plenty of homes that are, I've seen, because we do loans across the country, 100,000, 125, 150, 170,000, when your mortgage payment isn't that much, right? Under $1,000 mortgage payments. And this is not uncommon, right? We see this. I mean, if you're buying in like a major city like Tampa, okay, that might be really hard. In Chicago, it's hard. Unless you go further out, then it's possible that you can do it. So it's all possible, but it depends on what you want. It depends on how well you budget and how good your credit is. Because good budget equals good credit. Good credit gives you the best financing terms available. In fact, you could probably build a real estate empire just on having good credit if you have good credit limits on your credit cards. I've seen people do it. Like, hey, I need 100,000 cash for this project. They literally pull 0 interest loans off their credit cards, do the project, pay it back. They made 30 grand. Like, it's extremely possible. Like, it's just, you have to want it and you got to spend time learning it, right? And just like anything in life, there's always a risk to it. Like, like you mentioned, like that, someone going back to the VA, not studying ahead of time or knowing the process and get reduced $2,000 a month. That's wild. That's wild to me. So, but yeah. All right, this one's for you.
Have you ever did a video on the subject of helpless child status on Form 21686C? These are 2 separate things, but are combined. Yes, I do have a video on helpless child. People, I have almost 180. I'm sorry, I said 100. Almost 850 videos.
Jeez.
Go to my YouTube channel, type in a keyword. 9 times out of 10, that video will come up. So in this case, helpless child. You go to my channel, and again, we just talk about learning. When I was building my YouTube channel, I didn't know a lot of this stuff, lighting, and I would just go and I found certain channels. I didn't email those people or leave a comment and say, "Hey, you got a video on this?" I would go to that channel and be like, "Hey," and type in Canon M50 or Sony 7 Series 7 camera and look at the settings, because more than likely they had a video on it, right? So,
That's what I do
yeah.
with this
So,
camera.
yeah. So you got same thing, same concept here. People just go to the channel, type in a keyword, and maybe not may have more than one video come up. But I believe with Helpless Child I only did it one time. And it was crazy about it. That video didn't get a lot of views. I didn't expect for it to, because a lot of people don't fall in that category. But again, it's a piece of information I think every veteran should know, because it may not impact you, but what if it impacts a veteran that has a child that is helpless and don't know that they're entitled to those benefits?
Yeah. I think that's the moral of what we do, is that, like, same thing. I throw videos out there. I'm like, this is going to be the most important thing people need
Oh,
to know. They got like
you're like,
no views. And I'm like, but you guys don't understand. Like, you have to, you want to know this information. And it's always about passing it on, right? It's not like, us being on here and you guys listening in, at this point, like, we've done this long enough where sometimes you just kind of tune in because you're like, hey, let me just hear these guys talk. But we all know other people. We all know
yeah,
other veterans, right? Unless you're living out in the middle of nowhere, you're probably not watching this because you don't have Wi-Fi. This is like really to pass it on, where you over here with your buddies talking. Like, it happens where I'm at, like even at my unit, where you hear guys talking about something and I just jump in. I'm like, wait a second, not true. This is how your VA disability works. Here, check out the channel and search it in the channel, and you guys are
yeah,
going to find it, right?
yeah,
And it's because a lot of times people will hear something and they'll be like, well, this is the truth. And then Dwayne and I over
oh,
here are like,
what?
well, yeah, like Dwayne, it's crazy because people will call me and they'll be like, "You've told me the opposite of what everyone else has told me." I'm like, "Yeah, because I'm right." But it's just because they don't read the stuff, and they don't.
Yeah,
Your success is like everyone watching. You guys' success is our success, right? You're successful in home ownership. Great. Like, I hope we had a good hand in that. You
mhm,
were to change your life with VA disability. That's awesome. Like, we want to help that, right?
mhm,
Like, yeah, that's why we do this stuff.
yeah. And so even majority of my videos, I always like to show the reference. Like I just, shared the
Yeah.
screen, so it's coming from the VA's website. Now, do a lot of VA employees follow that? Some of them don't. And so that's a fight. If you fall into that particular uh, scenario and your claim lands on a VA employee that's not following those regulations. Well, I had the same thing happen to me. People like, well, watch this video and give me your thoughts. No. If I talked about something and I showed the reference, I don't need to watch another video of someone
Yeah.
just talking about it, not even showing the regulation. They're just talking about it. Not saying that the information is not right, but I'm going off of what I was trained, how I was trained to look at it, and what's still in place today that was in place 10, 12 years ago. So, and guess what, Data? I got a video on that. What is, I call it, I'll never forget it. What is the number one non-VA regulation that gets veterans into trouble? They say it. I did a video on it.
Yeah,
I did a
that's
video.
funny. All right, let's go on to this one's for you as well.
Before I spoke on how to correct sitting back for ANA, I was denied third time for ANA. I sent you an email. Excuse me. Thanks for the email. ANA, yeah, big dog. Okay, yeah, I remember. He's down my way. I get a lot of emails, and a lot of people want me to review
I
a
get a
lot
lot
of
of emails
different
too.
documents. I don't that's I stay away from that. Um, I've actually done classes on aid in attendance. Aid in attendance is tricky. I always take people to the M21-1. This is the criteria for aid in attendance. Do you meet it? And I think, and I always ask that question because it's not what I think if you meet it or not. It's per the VA regulations. So when you see that criteria and you have evidence already, you can't say, "Oh yeah, it fits it." No, you have to have a medical professional say, or a mental health professional say, "Yes, this is where all of this information fits." And again, I've seen, veterans get denied when they should have been approved. When I
Yeah.
rated, I made mistakes. It wasn't done intentionally. Some of those mistakes I was able to catch, and sometimes that quality review team, they caught it, and you get that email, and you're like, "Oh man, you got to be kidding me!" Now I got to spend time on, you know, what I did, what I didn't do. But when you're probably like at the third time getting denied, then I think it's time to pause for a second and really understand, go back to square one. What is the criteria? What evidence do I have? Does it match? And then look at why they said no. You got to understand why they said no. If you had a CNP exam, a lot of times when I granted ANA, it was without a CNP exam. Didn't need one. You know, so if they deny it without one, then you definitely have to understand that that reason why. Because sometimes veterans say, "Well, they denied it because um, I didn't have a nexus." But you had a CNP exam that you went to, right? Yeah. Well, they're the ones who's supposed to provide the nexus, so that's not right. And then when they read me the reason why, I'm like, the reason why they gave you a nexus and they gave you the medical opinion and rationale, and they put it in the rating decision. Oh, I didn't see that. I'm like,
Guys,
yeah,
moral of the story is you got to read.
you gotta read. You gotta
You
read
got to
all
read.
of it.
Just it's like hooked on
And,
phonics.
and it's okay if you don't understand something, then ask somebody. Let them know
Yeah.
that you don't understand. But at least, hey, I read this. I don't understand it. And that's different than just skimming over it and like, let me find something that I do understand. It doesn't work that way.
No, this one's for you. It's a two-parter.
To minimize his mental issues when seeing the psych, kicking myself in the butt. Yeah, just talked about that. Sucking it up, right? Um, we as veterans do that, but here's the thing, people. If you're trying to get these benefits that Dave and I are talking about, going in and sucking it up, that's not going to help your case. It's not going to. You could get service connected, but don't be surprised you come out at 30% for PTSD. And then you get on YouTube and say, "Hey, I should have been 70." But you're not telling the whole story that you left some stuff out. That's not the time. It's like, going to apply for a home loan, or you're on the phone with Dave. Hey, you going over the questions and you get to that part about income. Oh yeah, I only make 50,000, but you got a second job where you making 150,000. You might want to tell David
And that happens. That
about
happens.
the second job that's because now you're saying 50,000, so you're gonna buy this much of a home. Then be like, "Oh yeah, Dave, by the way, I do got another W-2 and I'm making, crypto, whatever it is. I'm making an extra 150,000." You probably thinking like, "Well, why didn't you tell me that? We could have, been had this thing nipped in the bud."
That's so funny. Uh Jay, great to see you both early today. Thanks for the
Yep.
education, of course. This one's for me. Uh and I just learned about Gemini AI. Okay. That California does not have the full property tax exemption. I
Yeah.
swear the VSO told me we do. So you definitely have to check and do your homework. So with that being said, When I immediately saw the first part of this question sentence, I knew that you're going to get the wrong information.
Mm-hmm.
These chats, like any of these search engines, because you know what, Dwayne, people will message me, David, you are wrong, and they'll send me a snippet from Chat GBT. And I look at it and I go, that is 100% wrong. And this is what the VA handbook says. And people self-disqualify themselves all the time. And this property tax exemption is one of those things. Because even if I was to look it up, it takes time. Like I have to
Mm-hmm.
search by the county. I have to see if there's any like additional updates that they've recently made. So you just have to be aware of that. Don't use these chatbots for any of this stuff. Like VA disability stuff, do not use it for. In fact, I'm going to do a video on Chat GPT versus me, and I'm going to see if we can get stuff right or wrong. But we do it because sometimes I'll throw on like for some video ideas, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is wrong. But at least you gave me a good idea to be able to explain something to the people. So,
Right. Right.
yeah, definitely if you get some questions, drop them in.
Mm.
And the second part is also I want to just touch on is so good afternoon. I'm in Florida, 100% P&T doesn't include Valorum property taxes, but you're exempt a big chunk of property taxes. So this is actually applies across the country. These are like additional taxes that you pay sometimes for like roads, special assessments. They have it broken down in differently across the country. Sometimes you have to pay for school taxes, but not municipal taxes. So just be careful of that. And this is why it's also important to understand like if things change or like to track changes in your area, because if they change, all of a sudden you go from no taxes to paying taxes or no taxes to paying partial taxes. So keep that in mind when you're going through that process. And please double check the county, no matter where you're moving to, no matter what someone tells you. Oh, this one's for you.
When I got my rating, the VSO gave me a form with all the benefits. It did not specify property tax is only set amount, not full. You're not going to get that from the VA. VA, here's the thing, people. When VA grants, when I granted DIC, Chapter 35, aka permanent and total, that's all we did. We don't, at the time, Raiders had nothing to do with student loan forgiveness. That's through U.S. Department of Education, disabilitydischarge.com. We don't have anything to do with your state property tax or any educational benefits for your dependents. None of that. We grant the benefit, we move on. The VA, now, you could, I'm only assuming there is a document that you can get off the tax exemption document off va.gov. And you can, I think it's, I might do a video on that, where you log in and you go to document somewhere and you click what you want. It'll say commissary letter, tax exemption, summary benefit letter, like 5 or 6 different letters. And you can print that out. And that's what you would take to your city clerks, depending on the county that you live in, what paperwork that they want. Normally, it's that letter, but you get that from the VA's website. So your VSO can't go into your claims folder and print it out because it's not in your claims folder.
Good. This one was an add-on to what we talked about. Yes, if you're tax exempt, go to your county. This one is
Yep.
had a conversation with Gina last week. David, great, thank you. She was great and let me know I need to wait for my situation. So it's
Right.
as we grow, we have added team members on. They're very nice. Some say they
Okay.
probably like them more than me, but that's okay. This one's for you.
I deployed to Iraq on 2003. Now I'm applying for CRSC, and the Army cannot find anything showing that I deployed to Iraq. Raiders don't have anything to do with CSRC. If you ever applied for VA benefits, You should have your DD 214. I'm shocked that a lot of
Right.
veterans don't have their DD 214. So if you were deployed to Iraq and you're on active duty, it should more than likely be on your DD 214. If you have any awards, Army Achievement Medal, whatever, putting you there. If you have medical records like post and pre and post deployment,
Right.
especially post deployment. So if you ever file for benefits, make sure you get a copy of your claims folder, and you got to go through there and look for Iraq. And I think, Dave, a lot of people, they rely on VA employees to do all this development. Yeah, they're supposed to do this stuff. I'm not relying on that.
No.
Let me go out and do as much development as I can, because we're human. We can miss something. And I
Yeah.
think also a lot of veterans, they try to hold the VA to these high standards. Well, it's their job. Well, when I go to the bar and I want a drink and I say, "Hey, I want that mojito," it's that bartender's job to make me a mojito. If it doesn't taste right, I'm not getting a true mojito, right? So I can't go back there and make it myself. But, in this case, I think a lot of veterans can go out and do some leg work. But where is your DD 214? Why don't you have a copy of it?
Agreed.
You know, somebody did leave a comment I want to address right quick.
Yeah.
Mark be watching. Mark be watching says 12:48 p.m. You give CMP examiners too much credit. Mark, trust me, I don't. I am really hard on CMP examiners just because when I rate it, I've seen what a lot of stuff that they did. And a lot of veterans don't even know because they don't get a copy of that exam. So they don't see what those examiners put in there. And like I stated earlier, that's why I refuse to go. I stopped going to these CMP exams because some of them would flat out lie. And then when I had to fight that lie, the VA was looking at me like they didn't lie. I'm like, you weren't even in the room. How do you know? So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, this is the game we playing. I'm not going to put myself in position to let you lie again. I know what I'm going to do going forward. So examiners do things like they'll look out the window, wait to see you arrive. So if you're coming there, especially for a joint, oh man, back, neck, knee, they looking at, someone will look out the window, observe you getting out of the car, or observe you getting back in the car. And check this out. When you normally go to the doctor, who calls you back to the exam room? A nurse,
Nurse.
right? I had a doctor call me back. And I immediately knew that was something weird. I was like, they up to something no good. They up to something no good. And then they'll do things like drop a pen on the floor. I'm not picking that up. You pick it up. You dropped it. I didn't drop it.
Trying to test you.
Yeah. Take your shoes off. And if you got lace shoes, what do? You're going to bend over, right? You're going for a shoulder, wear a tank top. They're going to say, take your shirt off. Nah, I'm good. I can measure my range of motion with a cut off shirt, tank top on, or whatever. It's a little thing. And I've seen them do things just to try to trip veterans up. So trust me, Mark, watch some of my videos on CMP exams. I am hard on some, and it's not all CMP examiners. It's not all, but it's just, you always got a few, you always have a few out of the bunch or out of the crowd.
For sure. We'll wrap things up here shortly. So someone's asking 4.85 interest rate good in today's market. Yeah, I haven't seen that unless you pay like crazy amount of discount points or new construction.
Mhm.
Someone's mentioned 6.75. You may qualify potentially for an interest rate reduction in finance loan. Just depends on where you're at and credit wise, kind of where you sit on that. I just want to mention the VA hybrid Earl is now out, lowering my interest payment from 6.5 to 4.25. Will lower payment $411 a month. I am doing the 3-year. Good thing I can read this because what they're saying is they're doing a 3-2-1 buy down. I would have to look into that. That means you'd be basically prepaying interest for 3 years into the loan. So you'd be paying interest on top of interest. Um, so it's a temporary solution. Um, I would have to take a look at it. If you want to just schedule a call with me and give me some information, I'd really appreciate that. Take a look at that
Mhm.
for you and let you know.
Yeah.
Someone mentioned I own my own home and I've never used credit in my life. That's positive.
Yeah.
For a lot of folks, they really do need to have credit, because if you try to use your VA loan with no credit score, you get much worse financing terms. So that is for a lot of folks that follow Dave Ramsey. We've those folks have paid the highest in closing costs out of anybody because they have no credit. It's great that you don't have credit, but if you want to access credit, it becomes an issue. Is there a VA loan limit for full entitlement in 2026? Yeah, it's $832,750 unless you're in a high county limit area. Then it changes on that. So yeah, definitely feel free to schedule a call with me. That pretty much wraps up today. I know we had a bunch of questions left, but either drop them down in the regular comment section, which will go in afterwards and answer them. But if you guys have questions, feel free to schedule a call with me down in the description, like both of our channels, VA Housing Education and KMD 89. We're here to help you guys and walk you through that process. Any closing thoughts, Dwayne?
No, that's it. I would just tell veterans, this is something I'm going to be talking about the hearing and this new Power BI tool that the VA is trying to put together, and just give my perspective. I'm going to have a special guest, another retired rating specialist. We're going to talk about that tonight at 7 p.m. But I want to leave people with this as it pertains to the compensation piece. Dave, you talked about the intent to file. And I did a video, I want to say it was December 2024, where I talked about do the intent to file, find you an examiner, start building evidence. The landscape of the compensation is changing. The regulations are still the same. Majority of them are still the same from 5-10 years ago. So yeah, ask yourself, what changed? New employees, new training, new mindsets, right? Old dogs like me that my threshold is the same as the VA requirements. That's it. Not higher, not lower, in line with that, because I know I'm going to be right when I grant something. Do that intent to file, identify you an examiner or two examiners, build a rapport, start building evidence. So when you ask them to complete a DBQ, it's it's solid. That's an option. But at the end of the day, it's your claim. How you proceed to go forward, that's totally up to you. But
100%.
yeah.
Yeah. Gather the evidence. I think I spent a year just gathering things, going for appointments and stuff. So that's the same thing you guys have to do. Nothing. One thing I'll close out with is nothing's free.
Yeah.
Just like when we started, when you were talking about like freedom isn't free.
Mhm.
Same thing when it comes to this. Like nothing is free. If you don't put the time in, you're not going to get you will get something. It just won't be what you wanted.
Right.
Okay. If you put the time in, collecting documents, going to appointments, setting yourself up for success, right? Because like you have a year to do that. So yeah, make sure you guys plan ahead on that. But thanks everyone for joining us. Really appreciate it. We'll catch you guys on the next live stream coming up next month and some of our videos. You guys have a great day.